It's time for the One Bar and Lupica Show, bringing you anything and everything Minnesota Vikings.
Welcome to professional football.
Welcome to One Bar and Lupica Show. I am the Lupica. Joined with me, as always, is One Bar. How are you doing over there, One Bar?
I'm doing great. It is 1 week till the draft. 1 week until we have a shit ton of new Vikings players on our team.
Yeah, we are going to have a shit ton because we have 12 picks? We have like a carton of eggs worth of picks.
We have a carton of eggs, and we're going to turn that carton of eggs probably into 2 carton of eggs because we're going to end up with probably the whole 6th round and 7th round.
I need to ask you a very important egg-related question.
What do you got?
You crack the egg. Do you put it back in the carton or do you put it right in the garbage?
I put it back in the carton, and by the time I'm done with my carton of eggs, there's just a slew of cracked eggs and bacteria.
And it's so gross.
I'm lazy. I've always done it. Always will.
Yeah, it needs to go in the garbage immediately to avoid the slew of grossness problem that you just talked about.
I've never gotten sick from it that I know of.
Well, that's a plus. All right, let's talk about we already did a little podcast on the Odell Beckham Jr. trade rumors to the Vikings. After we did it, it came out that pretty much both sides shot this trade rumor down. Do you think this is finally and truly dead, or is this something that maybe like the Stephon Diggs trade is going to have some legs and eventually happen?
I guess I didn't really – I mean, even in our podcast, we pretty much said it was like a 10% chance. So I don't think there was ever a ton of hope. But the fact that they both shot it down doesn't really mean much to me. Everybody shoots down trades. Everybody says it's nothing, and all of a sudden, boom, it's done. So I think confidence is low, but I bet where there's smoke, there's fire.
Really? There's a lot of fire around your crotch area.
It might not be the Vikings, but I think Beckham. I think there's some truth to Beckham maybe not wanting to be there anymore, and that's kind of his thing. So whether it's the Vikings or whatever, I bet his time in Cleveland might be limited.
And we'll see next Thursday. That's when it could happen during the draft. Not so much round 1, but round the second day, the third day is where you start to see some of these guys move. So it could happen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's coming here. It'd be sweet, though. It'd be fun to have him, but I think this is dead.
It would be fun. He would be quite the offensive weapon.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to think about it anymore. So let's jump into this year's draft. We're 1 week away. Let's talk about some guys that we do not want at pick 22 or 25. And I want to just, say one thing here before we get into this. Back in my younger years, I used to get very angry and upset about guys that I didn't think were worth the pick the Vikings would make on these guys. And I really have cooled off on that. It doesn't take me long to warm up to whoever the Vikings do draft. So it's not like I hate, these guys that I'm talking about, because eventually you're going to warm up to them and love them, but because they're going to be wearing purple. So I do think that's important to get out there.
Yes. And a great example of that is even when the Vikings took Christian Ponder, as much as my pants filled with shit and everybody was just completely upset, including myself, the next morning I woke up and guess what?
You loved him.
I was the biggest Christian Ponder fan in the world, and that's how it works. So just go with the flow.
Yeah, so why don't you start? Give me somebody you don't want at 22 or 25 that you maybe don't think is worth it, and you're kind of worried the Vikings might take.
Well, I'm pretty broad here because there really isn't a ton of guys. I mean, usually every year there's guys that I absolutely would hate the Vikings to take. And this year's a little different because it's pretty thick, and I think we're going to get some good guys. But I'll start off with more of a position. It's defensive tackle. Anyone really not named Kinlaw, like Blacklock, Gallimore. I think they're second-round guys. That's where they should go. But the Vikings, I just do not want them to reach on the position of defensive tackle. Those are 2 guys in round 1 anyways, where I would be very upset if we took.
Yeah, but I think you almost have to brace yourself for it to happen because Mike Zimmer's defense is all about creating pressure up front and not just on the ends, but on the inside. And the Vikings don't have that interior pass rusher right now. So I know Blacklock and Gallimore were getting a lot more love earlier in the draft season, and I I don't think that's gone away as far as the Vikings are concerned. Who do they see in person? They saw Gallimore at the Senior Bowl. They saw Blacklock at the Combine. It wouldn't shock me, but like you said, it is a little early for me too. I wouldn't be super thrilled with it, especially right off the bat. It would probably anger me, but I would warm up to it pretty quick. And I can see why it would make sense and why they might do it.
Oh, well, I would warm up to it, but this, I mean, if they traded back, even if they traded back to the end of round one and got these guys, great. But yeah, I don't like the value. I don't like it one damn bit. And defensive tackles are known to bust. When you look at defensive tackles drafted in between pick 20 and end of round one, busts. I don't like it. They're reaching.
Who's the last Viking first round defensive tackle?
Tree Floyd, probably.
He was awesome until he got hurt.
I wouldn't say awesome, but he was supposed to also go at like a pick 3. So we got total value there. I was not upset with that one.
No, that was sweet. All right. Well, you picked a position, so this was actually last on my list, but I'm going to address another position, and to me, it's cornerback. I don't know. I mean, Christian Fulton, I think, is the only guy who's worth a pick at 22 or 25. He's got Zimmer length and size and speed. He's a press corner. He can cover guys tight. I think he could actually eliminate a team's number one target eventually. I do think he probably starts the Vikings out of the gate. But after him, whether it's a Jeff Gladney or a A.J. Terrell, Jalen Johnson, you said it about the defensive tackles trade down. That's where I am here too. I would also trade down and try to get these guys a little bit later because there's so many of them. I think you can find one early in the second round, late in the first, who would be just as good as taking at 22 or 25. So, I mean, I do like the way Jeff Gladney plays the game. He's aggressive. He's a little bit hyper. He's kind of fun to watch, but I think it's too early at 22 or 25.
Well, that's where you and I are going to differ because when it comes to cornerbacks, even Jalen Johnson, I've actually warmed up to him quite a bit. When you look at corners, Gladney and Johnson have the experience. Those are the guys you could pretty much plug in. It's not about the ceiling. It's about they're ready to play day one. Where you guys have like Fulton, who is all about the ceiling, all about the potential. Cornerback, as long as it's not nothing insanely crazy, I don't care if they take a corner. I'm going to be completely fine with it. Fine with it.
For me, like why I like Fulton better, he checks more boxes than like Jalen Johnson. He's got the size. He's a little slow. I think he ran a 4.5 40, so you got to worry about his long speed. Gladney's a little short. So all these guys have one major concern about them. That's why I don't like them this early in the draft. So I would wait a little bit. But again, I wouldn't. I would be like, okay, I wouldn't be like pissed off or anything. I'd just be a little bit like, all right, like I was with Mike Hughes.
Mike Hughes, exactly. Yeah, he's kind of mildly expected.
I wanted who's that guard that was shaped like a box? When it ended up in New York, that's what I wanted. Hernandez or something?
Will Hernandez, yes. Everybody wanted that guy. He was a monster.
Yeah, just a big rectangle or a square out there.
All right, I got some more here. I got any receiver not named Jefferson or Mims. If we reach for a receiver in round one, I actually will be upset. If there's any position that you don't reach for in round one, it's receiver. I don't know how many times we've seen receivers go at the end of round one that their teams just need a receiver. They try to snap them up, and it burns their ass. Guys like Brandon Ayuk, that scares the living crap out of me. If Mims and Jefferson are gone, then I say they completely set their eyes for round two to get a guy like Pittman or an Ayuk. But reaching for a receiver in round one sounds horrifying.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually have two names. One to me is Jalen Reagor. He's 5'11". This guy's supposed to make his money on his wheels. He ran a 4.47 40-yard dash. Mims ran faster, and he's quite a bit taller. Jefferson ran faster. So I don't see why you would take this guy with the pick at 22 or 25 when I know he had the at-home pro day, and all of a sudden he's like super fast. I think he ran like a 4.1 40 at that. I'm not taking a 5'11 receiver who runs a 4.47 40 in the first round. No way in hell. Another guy too is Laviska Shenault Jr.
Yeah,
he's the next Cordell Patterson. He looks like a running back out there. I think you get him on the roster. I was thinking, hey, maybe we could use this guy in the backfield. I think his position comes in question. You try and use him in different ways. You need a primary wide receiver, a guy who's born to be a wide receiver like a Mims or a Jefferson. I'm completely on board with you here. I do not want any receiver beyond those two, and then obviously the top three, Ruggs, Judy, or Lamb in round one. Good.
But let's be clear. After round one, I say it's game on for receivers. I don't care who they take after that. It is so thickly with receivers. I can't wait. But round one, we have to be extremely, extremely picky. They got to have guys on their board. If they're not there, and go to a different position.
At the same time, though, don't skip a guy like a Mims or Jefferson because this is a deep class.
Well, if they pass on Jefferson, I'm just going to go to bed. Call her a night.
I've seen you do that before. You like one time showered mid-draft, and I was
very depressed if my guy is gone, is there, and we don't take him.
Not as bad as Skinny when Brady Quinn went. Or when we took Adrian Peterson because of Brady over Brady Quinn. Never seen anybody so sad in my life.
Well,
anyway, one more position or one more guy. I actually have a name here I do not want in round one. That's safety Grant Delpit from LSU. Vikings do have to take a safety. Not only do they have zero depth, and they really literally have no depth. Harrison Smith is like 31, 32 years old. Anthony Harris is, franchise this year. They tried to re-sign him. That didn't pan out. Who knows what his future is. So I think they do take a safety very early. But with Grant Delpit, he's got tackling issues. Why would you take a safety who struggles to tackle? He takes bad angles, doesn't always wrap up. Too many question marks about basically what you're paid to do, and that's tackle people who carry the football. There's also film floating around of him getting pretty much lit up by a kicker, which is very disheartening. So I used to love Grant Delpit. I did a little more research on him, and I've, very, very much soured on this guy.
Yeah, I think Delpit ends up going like mid-round 2. McKinney, I think he'll be gone before us. But my last one was actually safety as well, and more not so much for the player, more so the impact on year one. As of now, we do have Harrison Smith, and we just need depth. So I would be just fine taking a safety in rounds 3, rounds 4, round 5. Deal with it then. To waste a first-round pick on a safety, unless you're planning on moving Anthony Harris, it makes sense. But if you're not, and just to add a guy at depth, I hate everything about that. I'm so off the safety bandwagon. Round 3.
What about like Antoine Winfield Jr.? You can put him at nickel corner year one, and he's your safety down the road. What about a guy like that?
Well, if we get Antoine Winfield, my pants are on the floor. I don't care if we trade up into the top 10 to get that guy. Everybody loves him. Ball hawk.
There you go.
Safety, golfer. He's got everything, baby.
Yeah, he's going to be damn good, too.
Yeah, and he's going to go in round 1. And it's going to be very sad when he goes.
Hopefully he goes,
Well, if we take him in round 1, he can play corner, like you said. Can play him wherever we want.
Oh, yeah. All right, so let's flip the table a little bit here. I don't know if that's even a saying, but how about some guys you'd be willing to trade up for in this draft? Vikings have 2 extra third-rounders. They got a load of 6th-rounders, 7th-rounders, so they definitely have ammunition to move up. So, actually, before we get into this, I do want to say one thing. I'm not talking about moving up, like, into the top 10. I mean, if I'm the Vikings, I would move up maybe 5 spots or so where a guy's falling that you're not expecting to. I wouldn't want to give up more than, the additional third if I'm the Vikings. Maybe your 2nd-rounder, depending on who it is. So, I'm not looking for do anything crazy. I'm not giving up future firsts or anything like that. I'm not doing any Jeff Carson kind of deals. So give me somebody you'd be willing to move up for.
Well, I was kind of on the same theme. If the Vikings move up, it's going to be like 3 picks, 4 picks max. It's going to be a guy like, for some reason, Henry Ruggs is hanging around on pick 19, or Andrew Thomas is there at pick 20, and they're going to move up. So those are kind of the guys I got in mind. If one of those top 3 receivers, one of those guys is hanging around into the late teens, maybe they think about it. So I think if any of those guys are sliding, it's going to be Henry Ruggs. He would be the guy that I would be just fine giving up a third or whatever else that takes. Javon Kinlaw, he is a guy that's kind of all over the boards. He could go as early as pick 7. He could go into the late teens. So if he's sticking around, I'm all for it. And then, am I stealing all your guys?
Yeah, you pretty much hit every guy I was going to talk about, which is fine.
All right. Well, I got one more, so I'll let you go.
Last guy I have is C.J. Henderson. If he gets to, I don't know, 17, 16, I think you want to move up and get him because there's no way he's getting past the Cowboys or I think the Raiders pick again, the Jaguars pick again. And, what you said with Henry Ruggs, you got the Eagles sitting right in front of you. Their biggest need is wide receiver. There's no way Henry Ruggs will get by the Eagles right in front of the Vikings, so you'd have to jump 20 to grab him. Andrew Thomas, you mentioned too. I think you probably got to get ahead of the Dolphins. I think they have the 18th pick. Maybe you can swing a deal with the Cowboys. But yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same board. Javon Kinlaw, I mean, if he starts getting into the mid to late teens, maybe you think about moving up because Javon Kinlaw, 6'5", 324 pounds. He's a complete monster. Right now, I mean, in college, he pretty much relied on his overpowering strength. He's quick, but he kind of lacks technique. You get him under Andre Patterson's tutelage. Man, could you imagine him next to Michael Pierce?
Oh,
that would just be
next to Michael Pierce and next to Hunter and Odenabo. That is one hell of a defensive line. And my last guy was Thomas. You already mentioned it. And Thomas is a guy, if he gets past pick 14 or whatever, he could end up sliding a little bit. He would be well worth going up and getting him. But other than that, I think we're both on the same page on this one is unless we're only moving up a pick or two, we don't want to trade back. We want to keep those picks or trade up. If anything, I want us to trade back at 25. I want us to stay at 22, get our guy, get the value, and then at 25, move back a little bit, maybe get another second or third.
Yep, I agree there too. I'd be willing to get one of those thirds. I don't want to get rid of the second round pick. And maybe Slick Rick, he moves up early, then moves back later, kind of balances out the picks. But I think you're jumping 5 spots at the most.
And you brought up a situation that my greatest fear on draft day is that assuming that the top 3 receivers are gone and the Eagles are on the clock and they take Justin Jefferson away from us, and it's going to happen, and I'm going to be irate. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I think if they're on the clock, Jefferson's on the board, he's going to be an Eagle.
I'm so mad. But the Eagles in the past have made some real shit first-round picks, so you never know.
Well, the year they took Marcus Smith.
Yeah, nobody even knows his name. He was so bad.
He was horrible. Yeah, so you never know. So you got anybody else you would want to trade up for, or we pretty much hit it all?
No, I only want to trade up for very key people and 1 to 2 spots. So those are the guys that we'll have on our radar.
Yeah, I agree. So big question here. I know this wasn't on the agenda, but when you plan on watching draft day?
I will be watching draft day this Sunday.
Sunday? During the day? At night? What are you thinking?
And I can't wait.
Yeah, I'll hit it this weekend. I'm not sure when yet, but definitely it's going to be on the agenda this weekend, and I'm pretty damn excited. I'm not sure what they're going to do at pick 1.
Well, I know what they're going to do. They're going to turn that franchise around in one damn day.
Wow.
Boom.
All right. Well, we'll be back next week. Who knows? Maybe back before that. Depends what happens.
We're going to be back a lot more before that.
We will. We'll definitely maybe have a final mock. Maybe talk about, maybe look at the top 10 guys who could be available or who are Vikings we've taken in round 1. So a lot of stuff to talk about still between now and the draft. Until then, here's a fact for everybody to chew on. Matt, how well do you know your insects?
Insects? I know moths fairly well.
You familiar with lice?
No.
All right. You heard of the bombardier beetle?
No.
It turns out the bombardier beetle can fart fire.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
I'll be doing that Friday morning after the draft.